98FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy. Weekdays from 10 a.m. on 98FM.
Now, a number of residents from flats on Queen Street here in Dublin city centre have been in contact with us about an infestation of rats. Now, this is nothing new. This is something that has gone on for quite some time. The problem did ease a little bit, but it's now become worse than ever. And Mary is one of the residents from the flats on Queen Street. Mary, welcome to 98FM.
Thank you.
Mary, how long has this been going on?
Well, at the moment, I'm looking at a minutes from a meeting that we had in 2011. And the agenda is absolutely mirror image of what we have now. So you're talking 7 years.
7 years, residents in these flats have been living with an infestation of rats.
Rats. Right. That's not only outside, that's in the home as well. Okay,
so how bad is the problem?
Well, the problem is that, like I said to a researcher this morning, we have a 90-year-old woman who's been here all her life, has raised her children. She actually has 4 generations of children, still live, or grandchildren, everything here. She cannot go out on her balcony. She has to sit in this heat with her patio door shut because the rats are on her balcony and she lives on the first floor.
Okay, so she's literally a prisoner in her own home because of the rats.
Absolutely, yeah. We've another girl that has 4 children. She's on the bottom floor and she can't get out because at any given time over the last 2-3 weeks, there's been 11 outside her back.
Now, I know you've been in touch, obviously, with Dublin City Council, and recently they've been blaming the heat wave for the continuing infestation. Well,
I don't know. People are blaming women being pregnant on the World Cup and football. Rats are going to breed in any time. I was looking it up, and if you look at a female rat is receptive sexually 15 times a year, and at any time she can have between 10 and 12 pups. So that gives her 180 pups a year. Now, that's only her. Then you have the male who can probably mate with 15 times 15. You're going over 2,500 rats a year.
Just out of 2 rats?
Yeah, and that's not. I mean, that's him. Her on her own will mate, and then she'll have 180 if she's successful. But he's not going to just stay with one. He's going to go around the block and further afield again. You can imagine the amount. We're catching 19, 8, 9, big things, small things. They're successfully breeding regardless of whether it's raining, snowing, a heat wave. That's just beyond a joke.
Now, we have a video which we've put up on our Facebook page of a cage with a load of rats in it, and I have to say, geez, I cringe just looking at the video. When was that video taken, and what's going on in that video?
Those rats were found yesterday morning. That's the ones with 19 in it. They seem to be young rats because the previous night and the nights before that we had found much larger ones. So it seems to be that they were out of the same nest. It looked like they were mammies the first night, and then these ones were all babies yesterday. But they're all being caught under the one set of stairs. We're moving that cage from stairs to stairs each night. So what we've done is now we've actually pulled in some money and we're going to buy a cage that's going to go under each stairs.
So these were actually, and by the way, you can have a look at this video on our page. And hang on, I'm just going to play. If you're squeamish, don't switch off your radio, because I'm just going to play the audio from this video, okay? But if you are in any way squeamish, I'd strongly advise that you switch off the radio, or if you're not, you can have a look at the full video. But this is a cage with, how many did you say is in this, Mary? 19?
19.
And that's just from one little area.
That's from one night, just under one set of stairs.
Oh, I can hear them squealing and everything. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
But like you said, this has gone on since 2011.
This is ongoing, yeah. We had a lady down here, actually would have been 2011 around that time. She was sick, and her granddaughter lived with her at the time, and she was constantly telling her grandmother, there's something not right. I can hear scratching. And she was like, go away. You put it down. So we got the HSE and the corporation come out one day, and they actually flushed the sewers outside the block. and they ran all over her sitting room. They came from everywhere. She was moved to a house or a flat up above her, and 3 months later that lady was dead. Like, she was so stressed. I know she was sick anyway, but it didn't help. And they were in her house. And when they went in with the ultraviolet light after that, her place was covered.
What have the council done, in practical terms, in the last couple of weeks?
They've just put down poison.
And what has the poison done?
Well, you can see from the volume of rats that we still have, it's not adequate. It's just, you know, and then we're looking at them, they're putting the poison down showers that are already overflowing with sewage. And we've been trying to tell them, these rats aren't in the sewers. They're in the staircases. They're in cracks in the walls. They're in the back gardens where we have like a raised area with a bit of a fat bed. It's like talking to the wall, to be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, we're looking at them. A fella told me from Dublin Corporation yesterday, rat poison's doing the job. Surely you haven't. So we haven't seen many in the last few days. And I said, but you're only here 4 hours in the morning. We're here all day, every day. And with that, the chap walked around the corner with the 19 rats in the cage. And I just looked at your man in his face. He had nothing to say. He couldn't say, because you couldn't answer that. I said, you're trying to tell me that the rats are depleting, that you know, no way.
And I understand that, like, these rats are, some of them are huge, and they're as cheeky as hell. It's like, as I said, there was a chap up here in the creche, because I work in the local creche with Tracy and the girls that have the Queen Street page up. There was a chap out the other day, and I brought him down to show him one that was just dead in the garden, had just wandered into the garden, and it was just dead with flies on it. This thing was like a cat. But it's like I said to him, it's like we're living in their flats. They're not living in ours. Right. Okay. Stay there for 1 second, because I don't know how you could live. We had one single rat in our house about 10 years ago, and I still haven't gotten over it. So I can
we've no choice.
Yeah, I can only imagine how you're living. I'm joined on the line by Dublin City Councillor Mannix Flynn. Mannix, welcome to 98FM. Mannix, this is no way for Dublin City Council tenants to have to live in 2018.
Well, let's face this fact, you know, I mean, like, this isn't happening on Raglan Road, and it certainly isn't happening, you know, I mean, out in the more affluent estates in the north and south of the city. This is Dublin City Council's entire mismanagement of their own housing estates. This issue that's taken place in Queen Street is all over York Street, Mercer Street, Dig Street, Cuff Lane, and O'Carroll Villas. It is emanating from the flats, in and around the flats. The City Council have not actually dealt with it, and I'd be calling on Owen Keegan, the CEO of Dublin City Council, to declare an emergency, a health and safety emergency, putting down rat poison. This is what happens when you put down rat poison. The rat eats the poison, and then the rat tries to find a place where there's water. They usually come up out of the ground, and they usually go into someone's house. 3 weeks it took me to get the City Council into Richmond Place, where there was about 3 nests of rats in the walls of a woman's house. She couldn't go into her house. Now, there's a number of issues here. One issue is, I suppose, the building that's going on in the city is one aspect. But the other aspect is Dublin City Council and the way they don't manage their waste management in the flat complex, where you have open, massive bins. But the real issue is, and this is the real issue, Dublin City Council, estate management and the HSE are simply not dealing with these manifestations and these infestations of the rats that are literally running amok in the flats complex. Certainly in York Street, the children won't even go down to put the rubbish in the bins. They're that frightened.
They're that bad. Okay, so it's not just Queen Street. It's York Street.
It's York Street
and many of the other inner city flats complexes.
Absolutely, I get huge complaints on up around the canals, etc., down in the north inner city, down in Irish Town, Ringsend, Pierce Flats. There's a whole load of this happening. And again, when you go in around these areas, you see a couple of corporate workers laying down poison. But the point of the matter is, they need to do this consistently. They need to trap the rats. They need to remove them, and they need to do their job. And in my opinion, they're not actually doing their job. And I'll say this on record. I'm a director of Dublin City Council. They're not doing their job. They're not doing their estate management. For this to get to the extent that it is out of control, entirely out of control, when a resident has to put their money into their own pocket, haven't paid rent, haven't paid management fees, and all of that, has to put the money into their own pocket to begin to catch rats on the estate of Dublin City Council, putting themselves at risk, and Dublin City Council kind of in denial. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. and they need to actually address the issue in the city. And again, part of this issue is that Dublin City Council will apply the law to waste management to all of us, but when it comes to applying it to themselves, no, not at all. If this was a private housing estate and there was this manifestation of rats in it, and it came to the council's attention, or it came to the attention of the HSE, God to be held to pay. That law would be coming down on our heads left, right and centre. But because
to be honest with you, Mannix, it wouldn't get to this. It wouldn't get to this in a private housing estate. Two rats and you'd have everybody out.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the Dublin City Council seems to have contempt, absolute contempt, for the residents who pay their wages. You're being
discriminated against because of your postcode. That's what it is.
There's no question about that whatsoever. And again, Dublin City Council are not managing their estates. If it's not a rat infestation, on one hand, it's massive antisocial behaviour. There's a complete disregard. And of course, they go in and they throw down.
But okay, Mannix, you're one of the most outspoken councillors on Dublin City Council. What can you do, or what can the councillors do?
Well, the councillors can actually, insist that Owen Keegan, that Brendan Kenny and the executive of Dublin City Council go and visit these flats. The Lord Mayor, which is Niall Ring, who wears the chain of office, who's the chairperson of Dublin City Council and the mayor of the city, should actually be out on the ground with the people of York Street, with the people of Queen Street, and saying to them, I'll stand here until this job is done. This needs a statement from the mayor's office. I mean, this is unacceptable that they're putting residents' lives at risk, children's health at risk.
And this is the point, and I think we can't emphasise this enough. This is now... not only in your flats, Mary, at Queen Street, but in many of the flats, this is now a serious health and safety issue.
The thing for us, though, as well, Aidan, what we're talking about is, and we don't mean to be disrespectful to any other set of flats. We've had enough. We've been just overlooked. Everybody is saying, oh, look at Stoneybat at the place to be, Smithfield the place to be. Never in my lifetime did I ever think there'd be a sushi bar up in Manor Street, Stoneybat. Oh, let's come here. But they're overlooking the fact that to get there, they have to pass us. And people look and go, Jesus, that's an awful place. They must be terrible in there. We're not. We're good living, clean living people. And on the thing about spending money about your rat cages, we were told by Dublin Corporation when we were asked, what are we going to do about the rat? They told us to buy our own cages. That's what gets my goat. That just drives me up the wall. And in relation to the rubbish, people coming in, we have a terrible problem with people coming in during the night with cars, vans. But when we go down to say it, they ask us, hang on for a minute, Mannix, they tell us, can you give us a specific time and a reg of the people that are coming in? And we're going, no, we can't, because you installed €20,000 worth of cameras and you want us to do your job for you. No, I don't think so.
Sorry, Mannix, go on, you want to get back in there.
Yeah, again, that's another issue where restaurants, private individuals are pulling up in cars all over York Street, all over the south inner city, the north inner city and the city centre, and literally dumping rubbish into these open bins where there's no security and there's no way of catching these individuals. But the point of the matter is this, is that in letting that happen and in creating those bins in the areas of the flats, Dublin City Council are breaking their own rules. They're breaking their own laws. They're breaking their own laws, and there's nobody to chastise or bring Dublin City Council to the responsibility of this. They know it. They admitted that to me last week at the Environment SPC, that they were actually breaking their own laws by having these open bins, basically unmanaged, waste being dumped in them, and all sorts of waste being dumped in them. And of course they start to blame everybody else. So here they are talking about a better environment, here they are talking about waste management, and their own housing estate is catastrophic. I mean, it really is a second-class citizen to be in the Dublin City Council housing estate. It's unacceptable.
I agree with you 100%.
It's absolutely unacceptable. My family, my sisters, my brothers can't open their doors for fear of rats running in. I mean, that's the situation. They can't let their children out to go to the bins because it's literally in the evening time, you literally are walking on hundreds of rats. They're literally walking all over the balconies. They don't care. They're fearless. They're up in the engines, the cars. It really, really is, at this stage of the game, really, really wrong. But what really, really galls me is that Dublin City Council has 7,000 staff. It gets €1 billion. It gets over €100 million in rents of its social housing estates. And in my opinion, and I'll say this again, they treat their tenants as if they were second-class citizens. I'm not going to use any stronger language than that, but it is simply appalling as to what's going on here. And again, and
who's going to hold them accountable?
There's 63 councils in Dublin City Council, and those 63 councillors need to wake up and start looking at their job and start looking after their constituents and start holding the executive of Dublin City Council to responsibility, because it's not really happening. This issue, we should be calling an emergency issue of the housing SPC in Dublin City Council. Daithí Doolan of Sinn Féin, who is the chairperson of that, should be calling an emergency meeting to call Dublin City Council. As I say, the Lord Mayor Niall Ring, a fine Northsider who was elected by ourselves, an independent councillor, should hear this call and call a meeting and go to the executive and go to the people in York Street and go to the people in Queen Street and assure them that this is going to be addressed immediately. Absolutely immediately.
And listening to the way it's been described by Mary, and we've gotten other messages in from people in other flats who are experiencing the exact same thing. This really does need to be dealt with. The call is out there now, and
we have a meeting next week, the 25th, in Queen Street, in the creche, to discuss this. And I'm telling you, the one we have from 2011 is a mirror image of the issues that we're going to be showing them next week.
And that's the exact same in York Street.
And that's 7 years later, and the first one on it from 7 years ago, rats. So it hasn't done. Nothing's been done in 7 years. So what do we do next week when they go? Yeah, okay, yeah. And can you tell me your address? Nothing. I guarantee you.
Is it going to take people to get Lyme's disease? Because Lyme's disease is a very, very serious disease.
It is. And that's when this conversation will take a total different twist.
That's a terrible shame. You can't have that situation.
Like I said, in listening to a conversation like this, you think of places like tenements in India as being rat infested, not places in a modern city like Dublin being rat infested in this way. It just sounds.
And these are one of the youngest complexes in Dublin. If you look back,
yes.
I was born and reared here. I'm only 46, so they're relatively young compared to some of the flats that are around the area. But people, you'd never think it to look at them. They were a great flats, and they still are, and there's great people in them. We had what they did was they came in and they renovated, and they took us from having a full balcony where we could interact with our neighbours, called a length of 10, maybe all houses. Now we're segregated into 2 with our own individual set of stairs, which is ridiculous. And the plans they showed us weren't what we got. But I guarantee you, if we were on the south side, we'd have got them.
But again, it's the contempt that Dublin City Council shows to their tenants. I see this example all over the place. It's absolute contempt. I mean, that's what's happened. You see the exact same MO played out right across Dublin City Council social housing estates. That's what they do. And their response is, we're going to pull that down and build something new. But when they do build something new, it's the same thing. It's an architecture of containment where people are separated and segregated and can't actually meet each other. And then they're almost in a compound. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is the health and safety of the citizens of this city and the children in particular who live in these flats. And it's an absolute disgrace that people who are on top salaries of €100,000, who are sitting pretty in civil service jobs down there in Woodkey, should be out here apologising to their customers, to their tenants, to their residents, and to the citizens of the city. And again, I'm calling on the Lord Mayor, Niall Ring, to get out to that particular area and
have a look and see for himself. Okay. All right, well, Mannix, thanks very much indeed. Councillor Mannix Flynn. And Mary, it's out there now. I know you've done a lot of stuff on social media about this, but it's now been on the radio for all of Dublin to hear what people are putting up with rat infestations, not only in your flats, by the sounds of it,
and I feel for them.
In many other flats complexes. Let us know how you get on with that meeting next week.
We will, and we'll see what they come back to us with.
And exactly. And as I said, if you're not squeamish, have a look at the video that we posted on our Facebook page, which was taken over the last couple of days, of a cage of rats that were trapped at
I'm
Queen
sure
Street
if there's some officials walking by now. There you go.
Go on in.
Well, look, thanks very much for your time, and listen.
The Power Radio.
We'll keep you informed.
The Power Radio.
That's it.
All right,
stick to our page and see what happens.
All right, thanks very much indeed, Mary.
Bye-bye.
There you go. The Power Radio officials from the council already on site. Let's hope that that does get dealt with. Imagine having to live in those... Have a look at the video, if you have the balls to, because the video's not going to harm you, but imagine having to live in a place where there are that amount of rats. It'll send a shiver up your spine. It's absolutely vile. This is 98FM's Dublin Talks.
98FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy. Weekdays from 10 a.m. on 98FM.